G'day, guys. Tim here, guy in the hat. Welcome, of course, to Beat the Reset. Our conversation today is with Bisher from Stormrake, the Baron of Bitcoin, the man that knows just about everything there is to know about. What he doesn't know about Bitcoin, you could put on the back of a postage stamp. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Bisher. How are you, Bish?
I'm good to be here, my friend. Any apologies on the background noise if anything does get picked up? I'm at the Melbourne Zoo at the moment, having a grand old time with the family. The missus woke me up this morning telling me that I got to spend some family time on the public holiday. But as you and I both know, the market doesn't stop. I'm in the 24/7 asset class, so I choose to be 24/7 as well.
24/7 asset class. Let's start there, Bish. Now, of course, I just should explain that your backdrop is an authentic, real backdrop, isn't it?
Yes, I am. Look at this. This is it. I'm in the bushes. I'm in the jungle of Melbourne Zoo, my friend. So yes, very much a real backdrop.
Wow, absolutely. And looking the goods too, Bish. You are looking absolutely refreshed. You are looking fabulous. And of course, I've got an authentic background too. I'm surrounded by Bitcoins. Now, Bish, the topic today is Bitcoin and what's happening with the markets. I've seen a bit of a pullback on Bitcoin, tends to send people into a bit of a tailspin. Give us let's start with a bit of a market wrap of where things are right now. And let's just start there. So over to you. Tell us about what's going on in the markets with Bitcoin right now.
It's a really great conversation. At the start of October, we were at 60,000. Towards the end of October, we touched 73K, and now everybody thinks that the sky is falling down because we're at 68,000. So, again, we always need to tell people to remain calm, cool, and collected. I had plenty of people calling me when we were at 73 saying, I wish I bought 2 weeks ago when it was 68,000. 68K comes around, and then people are like, oh, I don't know. I think it might go down to 65 or 64. I'm like, guys, it honestly doesn't matter. 68, 64, 73. I'm telling you, the US dollar is going to zero. So just buy it and you'll get wealthy. Don't worry about what the market price is pegged to and a worthless fiat currency.
Yeah. So now we have a presidential election, and people have been speculating about where Bitcoin goes with Donald Trump, where it goes with Kamala Harris. Just before we jumped on the live, we had a conversation about how US presidents, it hasn't really changed anything to do with the debt. The debt just keeps going up. So the question becomes really, is Bitcoin related to the president that gets elected, or is it more associated with the value of the US dollar?
It's more associated with the value of the US dollar, guys. Like honestly, like it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Harris that comes in. It's a literal nothing burger. The outcome is the same. Bitcoin's going north of $100,000 within the next few months. And it doesn't matter who comes in. Reason being is that I posted on my Instagram story recently, going back to Clinton era, where he was the first president to have $1 trillion in debt. Then it went to Bush, went to 5 trillion. Then it went to Obama, then that was north of 15 trillion. Then it went to Trump, went to north of 25 trillion. Then it went to Biden, went north of 37 trillion. It doesn't matter. I honestly couldn't care less what the color of the White House is. Red, blue, yellow, green. I don't give a shit, right? I genuinely don't, because I'm telling you, regardless of whoever comes in, they're going to print money for their particular causes, whether it's war in Ukraine or war in Israel or, giving back money back to their voter bloc. And then, of course, we all know that this is all the machinations of the central banks. This isn't the machinations of useless figurehead politicians. But I can tell you now, it genuinely doesn't matter. Short-term price impact, if Harris comes in, assets are going to get sold off because people think that for some reason she's going to create this socialist utopia in the US. But then there'll be a massive recovery that follows it. If Trump comes in, BTC will rally off it because he's been talking up Bitcoin for a little while now. But I can promise you, regardless of who comes in, the inevitable outcome will be the same, which is Bitcoin north of $100,000 within 12 months. You can timestamp this conversation and come back to me if it isn't, because I'm 100% certain of that outcome.
A lot of people ask me on my channel, when is the best time to get into Bitcoin? Should I just be sitting back, just waiting here? Could the market go lower? I mean, we saw a little bit of a pullback here. Um, should people just be waiting, in your opinion, Bish, for it to fall a little bit further?
No, waiting is just the death of your portfolio because again, it doesn't matter. Bitcoin at whatever price that you get it for is an amazing asset, right? The best time to buy Bitcoin was 8 years ago, then 6 years ago, then 4 years ago, then 2 years ago, then last month, then last week. And now the best time is today, right? Don't overcomplicate it. right? As long as you're getting off zero, please, for the love of God, the most important thing that happens with your Bitcoin allocation is that it's off zero. Once you've gotten off zero and you've got a Bitcoin allocation, sure, you can be a little bit more frugal with your subsequent purchases, but my constant advice is just dollar cost average, just stack consistently. Doesn't matter what the price is, because the price is not indicative of value. The value of Bitcoin is limitless because the denominator that it's trading against is worthless, right? So just buy it consistently, and don't complicate it. Don't time the market. Whether you get 0.00001 of a Bitcoin or 0.00012 of a Bitcoin, it's not going to change all that much for you in terms of whether you time it at 68 or 65 or 70K when you come in. It's not going to break you. You need to just stack as many units of Bitcoin as possible because it's getting more and more scarce. Corporations are buying it up. Companies are buying it up. Nation states are buying it up. El Salvador, for example, has pretty much told the IMF to go take a hike and stick it where the sun doesn't shine. He is no longer reliant upon the International Monetary Fund for debt because he's on a Bitcoin standard. So you're competing against nation states, the biggest conglomerates on the planet, and sovereign wealth funds who are all accumulating Bitcoin at the moment. Don't be too cute with it because you're not going to outperform them. You're not going to outtime them. You just got to spend time in the market and you'll win.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We are seeing in the commodity space the capital outflow from property and real estate. We're starting to see it come off a little bit at the moment. How does Bitcoin behave as like a hedge asset? For people that are starting to lose confidence in real estate and property. I mean, is Bitcoin a great hedge for these people? Is this a place to kind of shift into?
Absolutely. Bitcoin is the ultimate risk on hedge asset that you can have, right? Precious metals, on the other hand, gold and silver, is the ultimate risk off hedge asset that you can have. The reason why you put these two assets together is that regardless of how the market assumes certain events or perceives certain events, the funds flow that's going to come into Bitcoin and precious metals is going to be biblical, absolutely biblical. The global real estate market is $380 trillion. Australian real estate market is $10.9 trillion. The global Bitcoin market is $1.3 trillion, right? We are talking, even if just a 10% adjustment from global real estate outflows goes into Bitcoin, we're talking about an asset that will be north of 5 million US dollars. And you're getting the privilege and opportunity to buy it at 104,000 Australian dollars. It's really simple. 10 years ago, BTC took you 3,000 of those bad boys, 3,000 Bitcoins to buy the average Australian home. Today, it takes you 10 Bitcoins to buy the average Australian home. In 10 years or less, it'll take you 1 Bitcoin to buy the average Australian home. Why would you take on infinite amounts of debt to the commercial banks where your asset can be seized from you because of the way they manipulate interest rates when you can just buy one of the ultimate hedge assets on the planet? Just be patient for 4, 8 years, 10 years, and then buy it outright with 1 Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's true. And now a lot of people, their resistance to buying Bitcoin is because they think it's complicated. A lot of people say to me, I don't know how to do it. Do I need a computer? Do I need a university degree? The one thing I really want to dispel here is how simple it is really to get to this asset.
Phone call or an email, right? That's all that is required, a phone call or an email. Like if you can send an email or you can pick up the phone, you can get into the biggest wealth transformation on the planet, right? That's what our service is all about. And you'll get plenty of free education along the way in terms of how it works, how the custody works. But to be fair with you, my dear friend, a lot of the times people don't ask these questions when they are trying to understand the commercial banking system or how dollars are created or how the central bank system. So, if you really understood how the central banking system works, you wouldn't even care and you wouldn't be asking me silly questions like, what's the price of Bitcoin? You would be selling everything you have, including the dog, to be able to get into Bitcoin, right? So, that's what I'm saying. It's like you don't need to understand how it works. All that you do need to understand is that it does work. That's all that matters.
And what can, some people, one of the questions I had recently was a really interesting question. People, you made a great point. People don't ask these questions with fiat currencies. They don't ask the question with a commercial bank because they're told that it's a perfectly safe place to be. They'll look after you. Don't worry about it. Can I ask, how does it feel to be in Bitcoin? I mean, you've been living and breathing Bitcoin for a long time now. How different is it to be in Bitcoin as opposed to being in the debt system? How does it feel for you?
Liberation, my dear friend, liberation. And it has never felt so good, right? Everything else for me just gets cheaper year on year. I don't have any cost of living crisis. I feel great. I feel amazing. And I've got one of the best assets on the planet in my own name, my own sovereign custody. And they can't take it away from me. And wherever I go on this dear planet, today I'm at the Melbourne Zoo. Tomorrow I might be in the Philippines. Tomorrow I might be in Singapore or USA or UK, and I can go there. You've got a dear loved one in the UK at the moment, and you can remit value to her in form of Bitcoin, and it would be instantly sent with no middlemen, with no third parties, and she would receive the value from you within less than a few minutes for the cost of less than a cup of coffee. It's incredible, my friend. And that's why I say to people, don't worry about how it does work. Just know that it's one of the most fascinating pieces of technology we have. Don't overcomplicate it. Buy it, and you'll be a lot better for it.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I want to talk to you about bull markets. Now, you mentioned it going to 100,000 US. Is that where it ends? Is that the end for Bitcoin?
No, that's just what I see within the next 12 months. I'm talking north of 100,000 US within the next 12 months. But, in terms of where the sky's the limit, look, I'll give it to you in another way, right? Um, if BTC was to go to $1 million Australian, it would still be 10 times smaller than the global real estate market. So it doesn't matter where it's going in the next 6 months, 12 months. Ultimately, it's going to eat all of the monetary premium of assets such as real estate and the like, right? It's going to eat all of that monetary premium, and it would still be an incredibly cheap discount relative to where it is. So even if it's $1 million, I'm still going to be selling it to my dear clients and also buying it myself, because at the end of the day, $1 million is not the limit, nor is 100,000. Right? One Bitcoin was like it had a ceiling at $1 back in 2009, 2010. Had a ceiling of $1. Broke through that, went to $100, went to $1,000, went to 10,000. The next big one is 100,000. Within 10 years or less, we'll be seeing $1 million. It's going to continue to increase in value because the denominator is going to continue to go to zero. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I feel that our experience in commodities is that people seem to want to buy it when it's going up. You're telling people buy it now, buy it now, buy it now. But the weird thing is when it goes up, people start buying. Can you just explain that a little bit?
Oh, that's just market forces. People are driven by one of two things: fear and greed, right? So you'll get out of assets because of fear, and you'll move into assets because of greed. And you have to work really hard on your individual person to not be driven by those base human desires, because it's almost natural to see market prices going down and to want to be fearful and want to hit the exit, and then it's only natural to see market prices going up and wanting to pile in. It's like the herd masses, the lemmings going over the cliff, right? You have to do the opposite of what everybody tells you, which is it takes a little bit of conditioning to do as well, because you've been conditioned for decades upon decades to do as your parents tell you, to then do as the teachers tell you, to then do as the banks tell you, to then do as your financial planner tells you. So there's lots and lots of conditioning that needs to be unlearned to then be able to be a successful investor. So you should be buying when others are fearful and selling when others are greedy. But ultimately, buying a pristine asset that's undervalued, I'll tell you when to sell. But why would you want to sell or spend? Which is another question that I get a lot of the time. How do I spend my Bitcoin? You've gone and you've converted your worthless fiat currency into a pristine asset like Bitcoin, and then you're asking me how to spend it. Like, you've completely missed the forest for the trees, right? You don't spend Bitcoin. You spend Aussie dollars. Spend that worthless garbage. Spend that worthless shit, by all means, right? But you stack your Bitcoin, you stack your precious metals, because you'll outperform every man and his woman.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And my final point on this is what I'm concerned about for people is that there could be a lockout move on Bitcoin. Now, we've spoken about this before, and I continually come back to it because I need to reinforce this point. There could be a lockout move. Could you just explain briefly what that really means and for Bitcoin? Like, what is a lockout move essentially?
It means that it goes from 65 to 78 overnight, and you blink and you've missed it, and it's printed new all-time highs. That's really what a lockout move is. You were considering buying it at 65. The next available price that you can buy at is 78,000. Not that it gaps through it, but it's just a forceful move to the upside. And before you have the chance to transfer your funds across and then pick up the phone or send me an email to say buy, you've kind of, and I will never say the term you've missed the boat because you haven't, but you've missed a good deal of upside, is what I would be saying. But whether you buy at 65 or 78 or 88 or 100, you're still going to be protecting your family's future. So why not buy it at 68 as opposed to 88? And if it does move to 58, buy it at 58. If it moves to 48, buy it at 48. If it moves to 108, buy it at 108, right? It doesn't matter because ultimately the scarceness of the asset and the decentralization of the network just means you'll never be beholden to a bank ever again. And that, my dear friends, is priceless. You cannot put a price tag on freedom. So buy it at whatever price.
Yeah, 100% counterparty risk cannot be overstated. Bisher, how do people get in contact with you?
Phone call, email. You can go to stormrake.com. You've got our contact details over there. It's quite easy. You can call me on the same number that my wife and my mother reach me on, 0478 675 399. It's absolutely Mickey Mouse to get in contact with me. Just pick up the phone or send me an email and we'll get you taken care of.
The charming, handsome Baron of Bitcoin you are, you very, very good looking young man. Now talking about
Appreciate it.
the phone that your wife rings you on, we obviously have to let you get back to the kids and so on because you are at the Melbourne Zoo. Beautiful day, by the way, in Melbourne there, Bish.
Oh, it's an absolutely Mickey day. You don't get to see many of these days in Melbourne, so I'm having a great time. And now we're going to go get to see some orangutans and gorillas
Love it.
do some primate stuff. And I look at it and I go, I look at these, amazing, majestic creatures, and I think, they would run a central bank better than who we have currently in there. And you know what? To be fair, either one of those orangutans would run the US better than any of the Muppets that we have running for the race tomorrow, running for the
Well,
election tomorrow. So
I actually thought the Federal Reserve was at the Melbourne Zoo. Strangely, until you said that, because it's a pack of monkeys, obviously, a pack of
yeah.
orangutans. And there's an old saying that why does an orangutan scratch its balls? Because it can, of course. There you go. Now, now moving right along, Bish, of course. Well, I'm not at the zoo. I'm actually at the Bitcoin factory. You can see here I've got a lot of Bitcoin. We're still minting some Bitcoin today. So
I love that.
while you're off with the family, we've got to kind of push on with minting some of this stuff in the background here. Bish, that's it for us, of course. Fabulous little a quick update of the markets. Buy, buy, buy. Never stop buying this stuff. Talk to Bisher, Baron of Bitcoin. And of course, that's it for me. Bisher, just any final parting words for our people, any pearls of wisdom about Bitcoin, just something you can kind of just finish on here to give them something. What can you give them?
Okay. Really simple, guys. Stack assets. Your favorite asset of choice could be Bitcoin, could be gold, could be silver. Stack scarce assets and spend worthless fiat currency. That's all I'm going to say. Please, for the love of all that is holy, whatever you pray in, whatever you believe to, whether it's yourself or Jesus or Allah or Buddha, please invest in assets, spend fiat currency. Do not invest in assets to spend them.
And in the great words of the great Kerry Stevenson from of course, that gold lady and goldevents.com, back the truck up, get as much fiat currency and get it out of the system and come and talk to Bisher from Stormrake. That's it for us, of course. Me and the guy in the hat signing off. This is Bisher from Stormrake, guy in the hat from BTR. As always, look after your health, look after your wealth, and make good choices. See you later, everybody.